Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Starbirds. This is the game that we're going to have a look at today. So if you're not across it, I do overviews on this channel. I have a look at the first 2 hours of a game. It's a Steam refund window, right? Steam reckons you can make up your mind about a game in that time. I generally agree as a rule. I reckon 20 hours in, you're probably not going to change your mind about how you felt 2 hours in. So it's a short, punchy video, broad strokes info. Keep it around 10 minutes. And then you can make up your mind on your own. So I've been really hyped to check this out. It is early access, you know, not everything's perfect. I'll save the early access rant for another video, I do it all the time. But the pedigree behind this, or the mashup, is actually very, very exciting. First, it's devved by Talcuna Interactive. I think that's how you pronounce it. Best known for Dorfromantik, which is a sort of relaxed tile placement game, a video gamification of something like a Carcassonne, something like that. It's a whole subgenre, and it's probably the best one of the lot. It's got overwhelming positive reviews to this day, and it absolutely deserves it. And just talking about it makes me want to reinstall it and play a couple hundred rounds on it. So good pedigree as a developer, and they are mashed up with the Kurzgesagt team, which if you don't know who that is, you should look it up. It's one of the biggest YouTube channels there is. It's all very, you know, educational infotainment aimed at a mixed age group. You know, kids can get value out of it. And all this style that you're seeing on the screen, these cute little birds and, you know, the vibrant colors and simple looking textures is straight out of their YouTube videos. Like, as a fan, it's one of the few channels that I watch like ritualistically. It's really cool to see this turned into a video game, like I said, with a really good developer. So exciting stuff. And the verdict, this is excellent. I loved it. I had to tear myself away from it. I really, really want to play some more. You can probably intuit by looking at the footage of what's going on here. And I don't know off the top of my head if this is going mobile, but if it is a mobile game as well, I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of like dragging mechanics and fairly simplistic UI interface. That's not to say a simplistic game actually gets very complicated, and there are sort of peripheral objectives that you can push for that will squeeze you, which is probably the best way to do it, right? Like, I think getting through the basic story or objective that's required would be at one level, but if you really wanted to upgrade your station and increase throughput to the station, there are little tick boxes there to keep track of it, and it actually gets very, very tricky very quickly. So again, if you don't know any of this pedigree that I've mentioned and you just look at this and think, oh, this looks like a kiddie mobile game, you should probably check that. This is fiendishly tricky in the right way. So at its basic level, you're this sort of captain bird of a space station that's moving through sectors. There's a little narrative. You're sort of trying to figure out the origin of an asteroid. It's not too complex and it's not that important. They have some very cute ideas, you know, cryo eggs that they hatch out of. As soon as the captain's hatched out, he's sipping on a cup of coffee. It's very funny, but all very surface level. The game at its core is you interacting with these asteroids within the sort of world map. And you have two main kind of meta currencies. One would be money, and this is for placing buildings on the asteroids. And the other one is research points, which can be used for all other peripheral stuff, like unlocking new asteroids, unlocking new building types. And often you'll have these generic fallback missions that will reward you with either of the two resources. They're sort of secondary soft missions, but they're not necessarily guaranteed to be easy either. There's a ramping escalation, right? You can't just farm the same resource. Each subsequent mission will demand new resources in the chain, so you kind of have to still keep pace. You can't rest on your laurels. But fundamentally, what you do is you click on one of these planets or research it or whatever, but you go down to the planet. You can place down a launch pad, which is effectively a delivery system off the planet straight back to your base, at least in the beginning. And then you put down these little excavator drill things on a resource. It's a little fiddly, I notice. I don't want to quite say it's buggy, but sometimes I've placed it quite directly on the resource and it still didn't pick it up, so you need to delete it and move it around again. So we'll see. It might be like a minor bug, but you can still work around it. And you just drag like a little hose from the excavator drill thing to the launch pad, and it's simple as that. It runs the, it'll dig up the aluminium or something like that and launch it back, and that launch pad will automatically launch it back to your space station at a rate per second. And that's what I was hinting at before. You can click on the space station and you get passive income from all the stuff that you send back to the station, albeit not very high, and there's still a ceiling on it. But there'll also be a star rating there too for extra peripheral challenge. So, maybe you want to get the aluminium rate up to 3 stars, and it will tell you, well, you have to get it to 20 per second or whatever to go to the next star. So that's the real basics of it. And as you go along, you're going to start to realize that there are different things native to each asteroid. This asteroid will have aluminium, that asteroid will have water, but you might want some sort of combined subsequent, call it a tier 2 creation. You might need to combine the aluminium and water in a certain building, and there's multiple buildings you can unlock to create a new resource. And what you then end up happening is you can place down like receiving launch pads, and you could redirect the output. And that's where it becomes quite tricky as well. Like, you'll have to peel resources off of your main line, and machines will get clogged if you just willy-nilly send them everything, right? So if something needs aluminium as one of the inputs, but you pump sulfur or something like that from another planet or from another input, it will just jam up the machine and stop working. So there's a logistics layer that gets actually quite fiendish, where you have to peel off onto different launch pads and different receiving pads. And in the overworld map, it is a bit small, but it's still workable, just dragging from point A to point B. So then you start having, cross production, where you're sending one resource from one asteroid to another to create a compound of some sort. And before long, the game actually starts demanding pretty, again, I've only done a couple of hours, I'm up to chapter 4 or whatever, but even that chapter 2, chapter 3 mark, the game actually really started asking me to build tier 5 type things, right? Combinations of combinations of combinations. And now as I'm going along, I'm getting into planets that are frozen, so you have to research a specific type of drill to drill into the ice. And then you couple that with one of the more side challenge things, which is to upgrade the facilities on your space station, and they will push you. So it'll pop up and say, hey, here's 3 choices, right? Here's 3 paths or rooms or whatever. One will be corridors, one will be an engine. It doesn't really matter. It's all just sort of flourish. But to create them, they will require all sorts of different resources, and it ramps and ramps and ramps to the point where if you want to get every module built on your space station before you finish the level to get max achievement, max score, you really have to have production lines of everything. And there are dozens and dozens of resources, and you're making optics and lasers and hydrocarbons and all sorts of crazy stuff. So again, like I said, there's that cutesy aesthetic to it, and at the beginning I'm like, okay, yeah, I get this, very easy to grasp and get your head around the game, but it ramps really fast, and I love it actually. Faster than most things, and faster than you might even expect from this, So this is good. It's really tricky. Less that you're constrained by, actual costs or resource availability. Everything's there, but it's more about spinning the plates and keeping track of things. And if I peel this off here and combine this with that, is that going to mess up the previous chain? That sort of thing. Anyway, it's great. It's a really good brain twister and skews a little bit more into puzzle over pure logistics management. I loved it, and I can't wait to play some more, and I hope it's very well received and goes gangbusters. It really should. Like I said, with those 2 cornerstones, fantastic development, cult following, and one of the biggest YouTube channels behind it, it's pretty cool. Anyway, team, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.